Okay. So Greta Thunberg recently scolded world leaders that in the face of the climate crisis, all they could talk about were fairy tales of eternal economic growth. But long before neoliberalism, climate denial, and the fossil fuel lobby, Canadian leaders clearly considered the alternative and may have even agreed with Greta. In the early 1970s, we know that Pierre Elliott Trudeau met repeatedly with the Club of Rome, even while the Conservatives in their 1972 platform declared that unplanned and unregulated economic growth could not be allowed to continue. So why then does economic growth persist as a primary policy objective? My research explains this paradox as the outcome of a coevolutionary selection process. I use federal party platforms to map the dominant belief system in Canadian politics over the last 150 years. This big picture schematic shows macroeconomic paradigms separated by paradigm shifts. But despite these shifts, certain elements, including economic growth, persist and accumulate over time. And you can see that accumulation. So at these key moments, why are some elements discarded while others are retained? I argue that this can be explained as the entrenchment of elements in the dominant system, even while that system evolves through a sequence of settled and unsettled times. So settled and unsettled times have distinct dynamics. In settled times, elements may become embedded in that system, layered upon but constrained by those existing layers. Whereas in unsettled times, it is more likely that established elements may be questioned and excavated. According to this theory, the 70s were an unsettled time in which entrenched elements were questioned, but ultimately selected for rather than against. Since the 70s, we have been in a relatively settled time that presupposes and largely builds upon the post-World War II growth-based order. So was the 70s a missed opportunity? With the emergence of populism and increasing polarization between the economy and the environment, are we again entering an unsettled time? And what opportunities do unsettled times present for an ecological transformation? Ultimately, my research identifies how unsettled times have unfolded and reveals potential strategies that we might use to navigate towards an ecological future. Thank you.